So, Sarah, very happy to have you on the program. Wanted to talk to you really since the resolution of the government shutdown. I happen to believe that the biggest untold story of the government shutdown is the role of labor in ending that shutdown, and specifically your union in that context. But before we get into that story, the TikTok of that, and then I also want to talk to you about the latest action you folks are taking in regards to Frontier and more broadly the union movement in this country. Just give us some of the basic facts of the flight attendant union in this country.
Sure. The Association of Flight Attendants represents 50,000 flight attendants across 20 different airlines. We were founded in 1945, had the first contract in 1946 at United Airlines, and we have worked over the years to beat back all the discriminatory practices that tried to keep this as a job, had young women have to leave the profession if they turned age 30, if they got married, if they got pregnant. We had to step on a weight scale until 1993. And of course, originally it was only a job for women. So we also had to fight for the rights of men to have the same rights as women on the job. And that is our history. Today, what we're doing is representing people from all genders, races, cultures, and creeds who make up the flight attendant profession. Anyone with the heart of a flight attendant can have this as their chosen career. And we fight for economic justice on the job, and we fight for safety for our members and for the traveling public.
And I imagine I can only imagine having just had experience, obviously flying and seeing my fellow passengers, that it's a trying position at times. I imagine that requires some support in the context of dealing with management.
Well, look, we wouldn't have this career if it wasn't for our union. We wouldn't have many of the safety regulations if it wasn't for our union. We fought for clean water on the planes. We fought for the FDA inspection of our food on the planes. We fought for clean air. We got rid of smoking on the planes. These were all the actions of our flight attendant union. None of this was initiated by management. In some case, we brought them to our way of thinking. But none of this would have happened if it wasn't for our flight attendant union.
All right, so let's talk about your union in the context of the government shutdown. I think there was a lot of folks who were saying over the course of the shutdown that we weren't really going to see any type of movement, frankly, until we started to see problems in air travel. Before you get into the role that labor played, why do you think it is that air travel in particular has the ability to make people more conscious of what the government does?
Well, look, everybody is connected to air travel. And you can just think about this. If you were alive on 9/11 and the days immediately following that, everyone would say that they could remember the quietness of the skies and how strange that was. That we're all used to looking up at different places all over the country and seeing planes in the skies. And our air transportation system is really what connects our entire country. It's how we move the vast majority of our mail and services and goods. And it is what people think of as their connection to their loved ones, or to getting to the important business meeting, or to celebrating a marriage, or to remember those that we love when they've passed. And so this is really what connects all of us, and it is a common denominator across genders, races, cultures, and creeds. It is a microcosm of America on every single one of those metal tubes that goes up in the air every day.
So, all right. So walk us through this, because there was a lot of people who felt that what we were going to see is that we're looking to specifically to the air traffic controllers, specifically as the sort of the pivot point of the stability of air travel, and in some ways, it ended up being. The air controllers, but it ended up being the TSA folks and you folks who sort of, I guess, ratcheted up. Tell me about the dynamic of how this, because I remember that morning. It was a Friday morning where there was reports that LaGuardia had been shut down for an hour, that I think it was in Philadelphia, in Miami. And I mean, at that moment, it was clear that it was just a matter of time, and it ended up being literally just a matter of hours. But give me the sense of the dynamic, the interplay between those different constituencies who were able to put pressure on airline travel.
Sure. Well, first of all, airline travel doesn't happen without an incredible public and private partnership. The federal government is so completely intertwined with the private business of the airlines that one cannot function without the other. And so anytime there's a government shutdown, we have opposed that. We have expressed concern. It has an impact on safety and security. If you start having people come to work and telling them that they're not going to get paid, that has an impact and a distraction on safety. I learn in my flight attendant training every year, the very first thing we learn is that when you're doing safety-sensitive work, you remove all distractions. Any distraction can cause a disruption to safety. So not paying people is a very, very acute distraction, and it really created an unsafe space. The other thing that it did was it stopped all of the infrastructure planning and the programs that help support safety and security. So anything that was in process to improve the safety and security, or to upgrade it, or to update it, or to fill in staffing behind of people who are leaving in the normal course of the operation, retirements or medical leaves or what have you. None of that was happening. And so every single day that the shutdown went on, those safety nets that we have, the layers of safety and security that are there that keep us safe, were getting stretched further and further. And it was creating holes, and it was creating the possibility of a catastrophic incident. And so every single day that that happened, we became more and more concerned as flight attendants. And as federal workers, they not only do not have the right to strike, but as we learned from PATCO in 1981, those strikers can actually be federally prosecuted. They can even lose their freedom, not to mention losing the right to have their job or to return to work in any government position. So those labor laws are really abysmal. And if you think about it, in private business, no one would go to work without getting paid or being told that they're not going to get paid. That would end on day one. For the 2 million people who either went without work or without pay, they would have been given a warn notice of at least 60 days and been able to plan for that. None of that happened. But under federal labor law, these workers didn't have the right to strike. And so it really required defining for the public what was at stake. And when you say there wasn't really any action, or a lot of people said there wasn't going to be action until this was affecting air travel, what that really means is that air travel is something that can affect every single person's self-interest. And they can relate to that, and they can be concerned about stopping air travel. And so that is where our politics converge. That is where our interests converge. And what we spent a lot of time with the air traffic controllers and with the transportation security officers and with the pilots doing in a partnership between public and private unions is we defined for the public what was at stake here. And the air traffic controllers could only do this job for so long without having those distractions be such a stressor on them that they medically could not do that work. And what we told the public was, in any other job, if you do your job at 99.5% rate of efficiency, you are stellar. You are going to get awards. And if the air traffic controllers come to work and they have a 99.5% effective day, that means 50 airplanes go down that day. Right. So there was a lot at stake here, and we had to define that. And so a week before the flight started to stop at LaGuardia, our union also started to stand up and say, look, we have got to understand really what's at stake here, and we need to talk about a general strike. Because if Washington isn't going to do their job, these people are going to continue to follow through on the oath that they've given to this country and go to work and perform these safety and security functions. But the same people that they report to are not going to do their job to make sure that they have the pay and the support and the systems up and running to support the work that they're doing, then we've got to step up and stop everything and make Washington do its job. So we had been calling for a general strike. Our union had been preparing to withhold our service because we were getting to a place where this was just simply unsafe to be on planes. And we were very loud about that. And the air traffic controllers were really only doing what was within their rights after defining it so clearly for the American public. And we got the attention because we were able to, as a private union, talk about the fact that we were not going to continue to go to work under those conditions.
All right. Well, Sara Nelson, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk more about the union movement more broadly. And if we are seeing in this country a renewed sense that workers have more power than they have contemplated in the past, and withholding their labor can promote benefits for the entire society. Also want to talk about what's happening with Frontier Air. We got to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.